Behind every locked door lies a story the world was never meant to hear. Welcome to Behind Bars TV, where we uncover the hidden realities of the world's toughest prisons, untold inmate experiences, and the systems built to contain them. From supermax facilities to forgotten penitentiaries, we reveal the truth behind concrete walls and razor wire. This is not fiction. This is the world behind bars.
Once you're in
the back streets of Los Angeles,
there's no out.
Two names became legend: Barrio 18 and MS-13. Born from survival, baptized in blood, and exported across continents. What started as teenage defense gangs in the 1980s has become one of the deadliest rivalries in the Western Hemisphere. They speak the same language, share the same roots, but wage a war that has claimed tens of thousands of lives. This is the story of the gangs that built empires from chaos. The story of how two names, born in the shadows of Los Angeles, came to control entire nations. The war begins. In the early 1980s, waves of immigrants from Central America, especially El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, flooded into Los Angeles, escaping civil wars and poverty. They arrived in neighborhoods already dominated by Black and Mexican gangs. To survive, they formed their own. Barrio 18 Dieciaco Street was one of the first. Barrio 18 was ruthless from day one. They didn't just fight outsiders. They fought for recognition, against racism, against police, against invisibility. For them, violence wasn't rebellion. It was identity. As their power grew, a rival emerged, a smaller, hungrier group of Salvadoran youths calling themselves La Mara Salvatrucha, or MS-13. Two gangs, same streets, one destiny, born in the smoke of war. Many of these young men had grown up in war. They knew guns before they knew school. When they reached America, they carried the battlefield inside them. They didn't escape the war. They brought it with them. By the late 80s, MS-13 and Barrio 18 controlled entire blocks of Los Angeles. Their ranks swelled with new immigrants seeking protection. But protection came at a price: total loyalty. To leave was death. To betray was torture. To belong was power. The code of survival. Initiation into the gang wasn't symbolic, it was physical. A jump-in meant enduring 13 seconds of relentless beating. The bruises were a promise of pain, loyalty, and revenge. They didn't join a gang. They joined a family with no exit. The rules were simple. Respect the gang, protect the brotherhood, obey your palabrero, your shot caller. Disobedience was punished by death. Every order is sacred. Every mistake, fatal. Exported violence. When U.S. authorities cracked down on gangs in the 90s, they thought deportation would fix the problem. Instead, it spread it. America sent its monsters home. But home wasn't ready. Police handing over deportees to local authorities. These deported gang members brought Los Angeles street culture, prison codes, and a taste for war. They found nations ravaged by poverty and corruption, perfect breeding grounds for a new criminal order. Deportation wasn't the end. It was the franchise launch. Fire spread south. By the 2000s, Barrio 18 and MS-13 ruled the streets of Central America. Every neighborhood was divided. Zona 18 or Zona MS. Children walked to school through invisible front lines. You can cross a border, but you can't cross a gang line. Extortion became their lifeblood, the infamous renta. Drivers, vendors, shopkeepers, everyone paid or died. Entire economies bent to the gang's control. They don't need elections to rule. They govern through fear. The prison kingdoms. Governments thought they could control the gangs by isolating them in prisons. But they misunderstood something fundamental. MS-13 and Barrio 18 thrive in cages. When the doors closed, the streets still listened. Inmates whispering through toilets, passing coded notes. From inside their cells, leaders known as palabreros continued to rule. Phones were smuggled in, guards were bribed, and orders still flowed out like electricity. A prison for them is not punishment. It's headquarters. The government had caged the body, but freed the mind. And behind those walls, both gangs became more organized than ever. The war without end. By the mid-2000s, the war between Barrio 18 and MS-13 consumed entire cities. What began as a neighborhood feud had become a generational genocide. There were no victories, only survivors. They fought for everything, for territory, for revenge, for identity. Sometimes they didn't even know why. It wasn't about drugs or money anymore. It was about the flag on your skin. In just one decade, more than 80,000 people were killed in gang-related violence across Central America. Entire generations grew up knowing only two options: join or die. The codes of death. Every gang has rules. But for Barrio 18 and MS-13, rules are written in blood. You break the code, you break your life. The codes cover everything: how to speak, how to walk, how to kill. You can't talk to police. You can't cross into enemy territory. You can't fall in love with someone from the other side. It's not just a gang. It's a religion with bullets for commandments. Even death is ritualized. Bodies are left in specific positions. Messages written for the living. Every murder carries meaning. Every scar tells a story. Politics and the devil's pact. In the early 2010s, governments grew desperate. The murder rates were catastrophic. So they made a deal with the devil. They didn't defeat the gangs. They negotiated with them. El Salvador's government secretly brokered a truce between MS-13 and Barrio 18. Murders dropped overnight. For the first time, the streets were quiet. But peace built on fear never lasts. The truce turned gang leaders into politicians. And the line between government and crime blurred completely. They called it negotiation. The victims called it betrayal. The export of fear. Deportations began again. This time, the U.S. wasn't sending immigrants. It was exporting terror. They were born in America, deported to El Salvador, and then sent back again, stronger than ever. MS-13 and Barrio 18 reemerged inside U.S. cities. Smaller, smarter, deadlier. They avoided tattoos, spoke perfect English, and blended in. You won't see them coming. You'll only see the aftermath. A news anchor. Authorities say the murder was linked to MS-13. The war that started in Los Angeles had now come full circle, back to where it began. What began as survival became strategy, and America was once again part of the battlefield. The streets of the damned. In the neighborhoods controlled by MS-13 and Barrio 18, life is a gamble every day. Who you talk to, what bus you take, what shirt you wear, it can decide if you live or die. You don't have to be in the gang to be in danger. You just have to be alive. Each neighborhood belongs to one flag, either La Mara or Los 18. Cross into the wrong street, and you disappear. Children learn their geography by fear. They don't learn math first. They learn survival. The gospel of blood. When violence becomes endless, even killers start searching for redemption. In the prisons of Central America, religion has become the new language of power. They pray with one hand and keep the other on the blade. The Christian cells were born, prison sections where converted gang members live separately. For some, it's faith. For others, it's camouflage. Some found God to escape their past. Others use God to hide it. The gospel gives hope. But outside, few believe it. Once you've drawn blood for the gang, salvation is just another dangerous promise. The children of the code. MS-13 and Barrio 18 recruit young. The younger, the better. A child without options becomes a soldier before they learn right from wrong. In their world, childhood ends at 10. Gangs target schools, street soccer teams, and even churches. They offer food, protection, and brotherhood, things the state can't. They don't kidnap them with guns. They lure them with belonging. By 2020, thousands of minors across Central America were active members of MS-13 or Barrio 18. Children are no longer bystanders. They are currency, soldiers, and witnesses. The women of the Mara. Women are both victims and players in this story. Some are trapped by fear. Others become enforcers, messengers, or even assassins. In the Mara, love is loyalty, and loyalty can kill you. For many, Joining the gang wasn't a choice. It was survival, protection from enemies, or from hunger. They call them girlfriends. The truth is, they're prisoners too. But some rise through ranks, commanding respect, fear, and loyalty. A few lead their own cliques, proving that brutality knows no gender. In this world, pain doesn't discriminate. Neither does power. The Ghost Alliances. To survive decades of war, both gangs made alliances. With corrupt politicians, police, and even international cartels. Everyone needs money. Everyone needs muscle. The Maras have both. Barrio 18 aligned with smaller local cartels. MS-13 struck deals with Mexican suppliers for weapons and cocaine. The line between gang and cartel began to blur. When the cartels wanted soldiers, they called the gangs. When the gangs wanted power, they called the politicians. Behind every truce, every policy, every speech about peace, someone was paying for silence. Corruption is the only currency both sides accept. The journalists who knew too much. While politicians made deals and gangs buried bodies, a small group of journalists began documenting everything: names, dates, murders, and secret negotiations. They had no guns, just pens and courage. The team at El Faro uncovered the government's secret pacts with MS-13 and Barrio 18. They exposed payments, privileges, and political favors. In a country where silence is safer, they chose truth and paid for it. Newspaper headline: Government negotiated with MS-13. Some reporters fled the country. Others stayed, knowing every article could be their last. They documented a war no one wanted to admit existed, because to tell the story is to join it. The state strikes back. In 2022, President Nayib Bukele declared a state of emergency. La Guerra contra los Maras. Tens of thousands were arrested in weeks. Whole neighborhoods emptied overnight. The government called it justice. The gangs called it war. Aerial view of Secote, the new mega prison built to hold 40,000 men. Inside, human rights vanished with the keys. No visits. No calls. No names, just numbers. He promised safety. But safety built on fear still smells like blood. For the first time in decades, murder rates plummeted. But whispers grew. How much freedom did El Salvador trade for peace? When you cage monsters, be sure you don't build a zoo for yourself. Inside the mega prison, the Centro de Confinamiento del Terrorismo became the symbol of Bukele's war. No windows. No sunlight. No noise. Just rows of cells filled with the same faces that once ruled entire cities. They built a city for ghosts. Reporters weren't allowed inside, but leaked photos revealed conditions unseen since the darkest days of dictatorship. They said the war was over. But wars don't end, they just change uniforms. For the first time, citizens walked the streets without fear, yet wondered what had been sacrificed to buy that silence. The price of peace. El Salvador's murder rate dropped by 90%. Tourists returned. Investors praised the miracle. But beneath the statistics lies another truth. A miracle built on fear is still a curse. Tens of thousands of innocent men were swept up in the dragnet. Some vanished entirely. Others returned broken, silent, hollow, unrecognizable. The streets are quiet. Because the people. Inside Secote, an inmate carving a cross into concrete. Both sides, soldier and prisoner, trapped in the same system of control. Echoes of the past. 40 years after they were born on the streets of Los Angeles. MS-13 and Barrio 18 have changed names, faces, and methods. But the story remains the same. Every generation inherits two things: fear and memory. Some believe the era of the Maras is ending. Others believe it's simply going underground, a quieter, smarter, more digital form of control. You can erase tattoos, but you can't erase what made them. From Barrio 18 to MS-13, from Los Angeles to San Salvador. This is not just a story about gangs. It's a mirror of what happens when a generation is abandoned, when survival replaces hope, and violence becomes the only language left.
What you just saw is more than a story. It's a reality lived by thousands behind bars. If you believe in uncovering the truth, the kind hidden behind concrete walls and silence, then join us. Subscribe to Behind Bars TV and never miss a chapter in the world's most dangerous stories. Until next time, stay aware, stay informed, and remember, freedom and confinement are sometimes only a wall apart.